Fooled my cheating soon-to-be ex-wife into thinking I was cheating then. Thermonuclear, shinobi ghosted and served. Her Christmas day, I hope you've got some time and a snack because this one is going to be super long as the events that follow span from late 2019 to last week. As per the rules, all names are altered here in okay. So here's the backstory. Masan to be ex-wife is my high school sweetheart. We started dating in 1992 when we were both 17. We're both 45 now and have been together ever since. She's the only woman I've ever been with my entire life. We married 5 years later. At 22, fresh out of college, a year later, we had our first of 2 children, both boys, 22 and 17, 23 years I gave to her. Built her a house, worked my ass off to give her the life she wanted. Sure, we had rough patches, but what marriage doesn't? Even in the worst of times, we found a way to pull through and come out the other side better, which made the discovery of her affair that much more jarring. Flashback to March 2020 when I first got the feeling something was off. For a good 2 months prior, we were in a funk. I was on the mend from reconstructive knee surgery, blew out my ACL fall 2019, but still lacking in movement at the time. I only had about 55% range of motion on my knee. This took a toll on quite a lot in the house. I was out on workers' comp as I had been injured on the job, and I was unable to do my usual household duties, so a lot got backed up. My sons would do what they could, but tasks only I was capable of doing had to be put on the back burner, or my wife had to do, which she wasn't pleased with. Things also crawled to a standstill in the bedroom between us. It had already slowed down prior to my injury, but in the state I was in at the time, it completely stopped. During these months, we call her Sue, was spending more time hanging with coworkers after work between November 2019 to March 2020. It was a regular occurrence for her. Naturally, I thought nothing of it. I've never in the 23 years I've been with her had any reason to worry or not trust her. She has her friends, I have mine, and we have mutual. I go hang out with my friends all the time, and there was no issue. It was all above board. It was around January of this year that I noticed something odd. Sue started getting noticeably distant with me. Sure, we were in a funk, but she'd never deny me affection. To that point, the usual hugs and kisses she'd give me came to a halt. Her phone was attached to her hand long before my suspicion grew, but she'd always share and show me things she'd discovered on the web, DIY ideas and recipes on Pinterest, memes, all kinds of stuff. But she was now being guarded about her phone. Even her interactions with me became more snippy, as if she couldn't be bothered. So we're now in March. Co has arrived in New York City, is locked down. Our chosen careers fall under the essential designation, so neither of us have to work from home. I just been recently cleared to return to work after 5 months on the shelf, and I was eager to get back after it is 5 months on my ass rehabbing my KNE, and not being able to do physical stuff drove me nuts. For context, I enjoy physical activities. I'm an avid martial artist, and I'm typically in the gym 4 days a week on top of all of the home projects I did within a week or 2 of the lockdown. Mass to be ex-wife alerts me that she's going to have to start putting in extra hours again. I think nothing of this because of her field of course. I was under the assumption it'd be every other day, but no, it was every day. And not just an hour or 2. She'd come home 3 or more hours later and go straight to the shower, spend a little time with me, a little time with our 17 years SLO 22-year-old lives with his GF across town, and then go to bed as I'm able to support myself on my knee better. We started getting intimate again, but as you'd probably guess, she wasn't mentally or emotionally present for it, which I noticed quickly. So by early April, the picture started getting clearer to me. All of the signs were pointing to the idea that she was having an affair. That's when I decided I needed to find answers, so I scoured the internet on things I should be looking for signs of infidelity in one's partner, and sure enough, she was pretty much ticking all of the boxes on such behavior. So then my search inquiry advanced to how do I find proof. I started with her social media, looking at her FB entries from months prior. It's pretty much the usual pics of us and our son's pics with her and her friends, and more than a few pics of her nights out with coworkers. In these pics, it's a mixed bag of her closets, friends from work, and a couple folk I've never met from her work, but I see one recurring thing in a number of these pics. One guy in every picture he's in, he's rather uncomfortably close to her. His arm is around her shoulder or his hand on her lower back, way to close for a guy I've never personally met. Needless to say, that put a sour taste in my mouth. But that wasn't the worst of it. No, the worst was the fact that apparently this dude is a friend of hers on FB, and followers are on egg. So I go to look up his FB account and wouldn't. You know what? I'm blocked. Why the hell am I blocked from seeing this guy's FB account? But he's friends with her on FB. Yep, now I'm in Batman detective mode. At that point, I wasn't even trying to deny it. I knew she was cheating on me with this guy. My mission was to find out for how long and over the course of April and May. That's what I did. You know, I never had any clue the depth of info you Could secure from phone, text, and email. Records until then we have a family plan cell phone package, and I was able to pull up quite a bit of data. My SDVXW data history was telling the two. Most frequent number she had interacted with from October 2019 to April 2020 was my own and a number I'd never seen. Before, take a wild guess whose number it was. A quick check on Google, and I confirmed it was the dude from the photos who blocked me on FB. Will call him P, cause that's what he is. Again, the picture becomes even clearer at this point, but a lot of their messages and texts were disjointed, which meant she was deleting a lot of them. I knew she was cheating on me with this guy, but nothing in the data could serve as a smoking gun. I needed more evidence. It's at this point that I tell my best friend, does what I had found. He asked me, did I confront her with what I had? And I said, no, because I felt like it wasn't enough. That's when he told me about an app that I could download to apparently spy on her communications in real time. I won't say the name as I don't know the rules on that here. I got it installed, sync up my data plan, and waited. Within days of doing so, I finally saw it, a text string between the two of them talking about how much fun they'd had the previous night and making plans to do it again. That weekend, boom, got punched. To say I was completely devastating was an understatement. I guess that moment counts as my D-Day, and for the next 2 days after I was just broken, I actively distanced myself from her those 2 days. Immediately after D-Day, which she was noticeably shaking by, she tried to console me and ask me what was wrong, but I'd brush it off and leave her presence. I couldn't even look at her, this woman who I gave 23 years of my life to, who I have given everything I could and more to as a husband, and she stepped outside of our marriage for a guy just 5 years older than our eldest son. By the 3rd day, I wasn't even sad anymore. I was pissed. I contacted Oz to let him know my suspicion was confirmed, and he asked me, had I confronted her yet? My answer was no, and I told him I wanted payback. I didn't want to just divorce her. I wanted to destroy her. I wanted to leave her life in shambles and effing ruin her. It was going to take time to do so, and I devised a plan. In my readings and research on infidelity, I had saw a quote that resonated with me that went, the enemy of infidelity is unpredictability, or something to that ilk. That was going to be the basis of my plan. I was going to make her life hell on wheels while also secretly planning my exit strategy. So we're now in early June, and I've still got the app installed pretty much every night. I'm gathering as much data as I can see in their back and forth messages. They're talking like it's a full-blown relationship. They're in sexting, lighty romantic stuff, nudes, the whole thing bag. At that point, I had stopped looking at any of it. I was just collecting info and cataloging on my private FPS server. Meanwhile, I start doing things out of the ordinary. I start going out at odd times. I start coming home even later than she does in her presence. I'm on my phone a lot more than usual, and when she asks, what are you up to, I just simply say, just stuff, and put my phone away. I'd also changed my login info on everything so she couldn't access any of my stuff. Mind you, for our entire marriage, we'd never hid anything from each other, but right around, I'm assuming, the start of her affair, she changed her password on FB as well as on her phone, stating she had to because of the security breaches in recent months. Yay, really nice cover for hiding your affair from your husband. Anyway, I clud, oh, and on my plan as well as telling my older and only sister and 2 more of my closest friends what was going on. These are people I trust with my life, and I swore them to secrecy. For context, Oz and I have been friends since we were kids. The other of our friends, Joey and Na, we've known since high school. Make note of Na, she comes into play Dalma Road. July comes, and am soon to be ex Wi-Fi in full paranoia mode. She's texting and calling me a lot more frequently now, asking me if I'm going to be home when she gets home. When am I coming home? Well, she is, and I'm not asking me what. Am I up to the works? I can see the seed planted in her head the month prior is starting to sprout, especially in her communication with Pause. She's confiding in him her doubt and confusion, telling him that I'm getting cold and distant. The effing nerve of this woman. In the interim of these interactions with P, she suggests that maybe they should stop meeting up at her house because she has no idea if I just show up confirming that yes, she's had this underscore on her in my home. Thanks, Sue. P asks her in that specific communication, was she worried about me potentially cheating on her, which actually pissed her off. I can't even begin to describe the level of joy and how many laughs I got out of reading that exchange. My cheating wife arguing with her affair partner over if she's mad her husband could be cheating on her. Oh, the F and UIY. Now bear in mind, I'm not hooking up with anyone when I leave. I'm usually at Oz or Joey's through back some booze, watching fights, and spending time with my brothers, or at my big sis house, hanging with her and my Bill, who's like an older brother to me. My sis is 52 and her hubby is 58. She had told him about my STBXW infidelity, but not of my plan. Couldn't risk it as he's a bit of a blabbermouth. We'll fast forward now to October, that's when things seriously pick up. I've been in my faux affair for 3 months now, and Sue is hyper aware of the fact that I'm actively pulling away from her. It's been as long as the day I enacted my plan until the day she confronted me October 20th, 2020, that I'd even touched her. No hugs, no kisses, no initiation of intimacy, nothing. Not like she needed it. She was still at Foss, just at his place or at motels. So that afternoon she calls me at work, which wasn't rare before all this began, but certainly hadn't happened in a while, and asks me to come straight home after work, saying she had something important to tell me. I'm not going to lie to you all. I half believed she was going to come clean about her infidelity, but she of course didn't. Instead, I get home to her asking me, was I unhappy with her? The thing nerve, she cites the fact that I've been spending way too much time away from home. I don't show her affection anymore, and her intimacy life has completely died. She tells me she's worried I'm pushing her away because I was resentful of how she treated me the months I was rehabbing my knee. And then came the punchline. She effing gasped if I was cheating on her folks. I fell out on the floor laughing hysterically, and when I say hysterically, I mean Joker laughing. Gas hysterical. On the surface it looked like to her assuming it was me laughing off the notion of being unfaithful, but it was of course actually me laughing at the sheer irony of what was happening in front of my eyes. I'm tearing up, pounding on the floor in complete hysterics for a good 2 minutes before I compose myself enough to answer. I sit up and look her in the eyes for the first time in months, shaking my head, but I don't give her an answer. I stand up, brush myself off, kiss the top of her head, and go about settling in for the night. Later that night, as I'm in my office, I decide, you know what, given the brevity of what happened, I wanted to see what she was telling him. So I fire up the app, and sure enough, they're actually texting in real time. She tells P, I know he's cheating on me. I asked him tonight, and he literally laughed in my face. He fell on the floor and laughed for like 5 minutes. It wasn't 5 minutes. Obviously, he doesn't even care how I feel anymore. I don't know how or why, but he's gone. I know I've lost him. This is karma. I know. It's the smile I had on my face reading that must have resembled the Cheshire cat she was breaking. P attempted to console her, saying that if I cared enough for her, she wouldn't have had come to him to give her what I wasn't giving her. But the tone of her responses told me she was having doubt. Now she had the nerve to step out of our marriage because I was unable to fulfill my role as a husband due to legitimate injury, and kept the affair going for at that point nearly an entire year. But the idea of her losing me to another woman was enough to make her waver. What a effing weakling. Now during all of this, I was also exacting the second part of my plan for payback, getting all of my affairs in order financially. In September, I had met with a family attorney to get the ball rolling on divorce paper. With a mountain of evidence I'd piled up to that point, New York is an at-fault state as far as divorce, and the overwhelming amount of proof I'd gathered displaying Sue infidelity pretty much solidified I could nail her to the thing wall in a divorce case. My lawyer instructed me to get all of my financials in order in preparation for whatever division of assets might come as a result. I went one better than that, secretly pulling all of my money out of our joint account and putting it in my personal account. I also started shopping around for an apartment as part of phase 2. We're now in November, and I've not changed my behavior. In fact, I've ramped it up. This is where my friend Nina comes into play. For context, Nah and Sue have never been what you call close. I met Nina freshman year of high school, 2 years before I met Sue. Even way back then, Sue has seen Nah as a threat, as she's my closest female friend. There's always been an implied I don't trust her from Sue regarding Nah. She's never addressed it directly, but it's obvious to anyone who pays attention. Conversely, Nina's never been a big fan of Sue. Early in me and Sue's relationship, Nina called to attention to me how Sue was pretty much imposing herself into our little square of friends, whereas I didn't do the same with Sue's set of friends. That irked Nah because she knew why Sue was doing it. Her among Sue's circle, even now there are no male friends aside from P, whereas Nah is the only girl in my square. Nah had been stuck overseas due to the virus and finally returned to NYC November 3rd. Oz, Joey, and I decided we were going to celebrate her return with a night at Joey's house for dinner and drinks. There was only 5 of us: Oz, Joey, Joey's wife, who is also Nina's sister, and myself. Sticking to CDC guidelines, we take the Rona very seriously. Nah being the evil mastermind she comes up with an evil idea to trigger Sue. She suggested we take some photos in the same vein of the photos I discovered of Sue and P months prior and post them to my FB, and that's just what we did. It wasn't until the 5th that Sue got wind of it, as I'm guessing a few friends noticed my updates and saw how uncomfortably close I was with Nah. This really underscored her mind up because she still believed I was cheating, and I can almost guarantee she wanted to accuse Nah, but she knew that Nah had been stuck in Europe for the majority of the year, still didn't stop her from attempting to dress me down that night for being so, as she said, handsy in the pics. I saw this as a golden opportunity to deliver the lead jab for my knockout blow. I say so. What about the PCKS with you? And pause. From last year, he was pretty handsy in them, but did you see me get bent out of shape over at Deer in headlights? It was the first time I even mentioned the dude's name throughout all of this. The hamster wheel in her head started reeling in real time as she tried to explain away those pics. To that point, she hadn't even known I saw them. That's little I use FB when I actually do post something. It's like an event to people, which is why the pics with Nina specific got so much traction among our circles. And explain away she did. He's that way with everyone. He's just a really friendly guy. I can see how it looks, but there's nothing there. I'm sorry if those PS hurt you. I'll delete them. No, the pics aren't what hurt me. The year you've been effing dude whilst lying to me that you're working extra hours and hanging with friends is what hurt me. But vengeance, as Lieutenant Seaworth from Star Trek TNG so famously said, is a dish best served cold. From that night, Sue was being extra specially clingy and attentive to me, like annoyingly so. She's tried to initiate affection and intimacy with me, and I'd stonewall her at every chance. All the while I'm still archiving everything she's saying to P. Mind you, by this point I'd long since gone numb. Any desire I might have had to save my marriage was dead. I checked out the day I enacted the first phase of my plan. She's confiding in him that I've gotten worse, that she doesn't know what to do, and she feels like I absolutely hate her. I do. Then comes the bombshell. She says she can't see him anymore. The guilt is too much for her, and she feels like karma is suffocating her. She can't risk losing me. She says that she loves P deeply, but she's still in love with me, and she has to save her marriage before she loses me. No, my dear, you're about 8 months too late for that. PA loses his underscore on it, saying such lovely things as he doesn't love you the way I love you, and you're making a mistake. You can't just throw me away like this. That text chain would be the last they'd have until about 3 weeks ago. Throughout the remainder of November into December, Sue is stuck in limbo. She's trying to gauge where my headspace is and is still unable to tell if I'm actually being unfaithful. Meanwhile, P is steadily blowing her phone up daily, but she's not responding to him. I'd see her check her phone often, but quickly put it away. Meanwhile, phase 2 of the plan was now officially complete. The divorce papers were done. I'd found me a studio apartment in Co-op City. New Yorkers will know the area, and signed a 2-year lease on it. All of my money was in my personal account. I was ready to throw my haymaker. So we're now at Thanksgiving. My oldest and his GF were hosting a small gathering of our immediate families. So the oldest and his GF, oldest GF's parents. She's an only child, myself, Sue, and our youngest. We have a great night. My oldest GF is studying to be a chef, and she did all the cooking herself. The girl can underscore on cook. Let me tell you, as I had to keep up appearances of nothing being wrong between Sue and I initiated affection with her several times that evening. Kisses on the cheek, cute little hugs, wrapping my arms around her shoulders from behind. The gestures didn't go unnoticed by her as she rebelled in it. Bear in mind, this was the first time I touched this woman since I kissed the top of her head the night she confronted me in October. So just about 2 months. Not going to lie, I felt repulse doing it, but I had to. I couldn't risk the plan and me being distant to her in the face of my boys. My oldest GF and her parents would set off alarms. So my youngest decides he wants to stay over with his big bro for the night. So Sue and I head home. On the drive home, she thanks me for being so good to her and says, I don't know what you're going through, baby, but I'm here for you. I had to hold off busting out in maniacal laughter again and responded saying, I just need time. So for the first time, realistically, since springtime, we had into my hat night. I figured underscore on her. With what I'm about to do, may as well get some action before I delete her from my existence. I won't go into detail, but it wasn't love. When I was finished, she was a lump of flesh laying there trying to figure out the direction of the truck that ran her over. No cuddling or anything after I just got up, showered, and went to go sleep in my office. To her confusion, though I used a condom first time too. Damn decades I did. She was definitely perplexed by it, but she didn't ask questions. Sure as hell wasn't going raw in her, knowing that she'd been doing so with P for months. At that point, I wake up the next day and check my handy dandy spy app, and for the first time in weeks, she responded to PA. Dude went full Mela. He professed his love for her, said she was wasting her time trying to rekindle a flame in me that died, that she'd been in a prison with me for 23 years and deserved to experience the love and affection of a man who would cherish her. Mind you, this dude is 27 underscore years old, 5 years older than our oldest son, and he's that sprung on a 45 years / married mother of 2. What a great, a high quality as she chose to blow up our marriage and destroy the home we built for this dude. Pretty boy with a soft side. She responded saying pretty much the same thing she said when last they talked, that she loves him and enjoyed their time together, but she Can't lose me. I'm still the love of her life, but she'll always have a place for him in her heart that they can still be friends if he chooses, but the physical relationship between them is overheat. Beg her to see him one last time that week, and yep, you guessed it, she said yes. One more for the road, right? Who am I to say anything? That's what I did to her. The previous night, of course, I added all of that to the archive I'd compiled. December 4th is when Phase 3, the final phase of Operation Shinobi Ghost started. The divorce papers were in hand. My new place or residence was set up. Now I had to slowly start moving me stuff out of the house. But first I had to break the news to my boys. I called my oldest to the house that Friday night, had them join me in my office, and laid everything on that table. Not the specifics, but that their mother had been cheating on me for over a year, and I was going to be filing for divorce. Sue, my 17-year-old, was especially shaken up by this because he himself had recently experienced his first taste of infidelity. Yep, his first GF had cheated on him just 4 months prior, seeing his heartbroken a second time at the idea that his own mother was capable of doing this hit him hard. My oldest took it a lot better and suggested taking his brother in to live with him, and until this blows over, to which I agreed. We packed up some of his stuff, and he asked me, was I going to be okay? I told him yes. Son, I'm going to be all right, and so are you. Are going to be all right, I promise. And then they were off. The hardest part was now over, and it was now time to arm the nukes over the next few weeks. Day by day, Oz would help me get a little of my most sensitive stuff out of the house, gave him a list of all of the definite stuff to grab while Sue and I were at work, and left him the spare key. This was all stuff Sue would notice was missing unless you told her it was gone. I'd also gotten a new phone and phone number, and told everyone who needed to know. Oz, Joey, not my boys, big sis, and my mother my new contact info. Meanwhile, I'm keeping up the rows with Sue, and she's none the wiser, trickling bits and pieces of affection to her just to keep her off of the trail, whilst she's still in contact with PA, not to the extent that they've been prior, but there's still an emotional thing happening. The fog is faint, but it's still there. All the while I gather everything, and I do mean everything, every bit of data I've archived since I started the plan: call logs, text, pics, emails, everything, and start making printouts. Folks, I must have spent over $1,500 on staple supplies, printer ink, paper binders, the works, and I cataloged everything in order from the beginning of the affair until that last bit 2 weeks ago, December 16th, in the binders. 14 of them. I then put each one in a box and gift wrapped, each addressing them to various people: my mother, my father, passed 7 years ago, her parents, her 2 sister, her brother, her HR department did. I forget to mention P works for the same company, and there's an expressed rule against intercompany relationships because of the nature of what she does. Several of her friends, POS, and P's parents lugged all of those __ to the post office and shipped them all out December 16th ETA for delivery December 22nd, 24th. Perfect. So we're now at Christmas Eve. Sue comes home around the usual time. No idea if she'd seen POS. I'd stopped tracking her on the app. The 18th figure, I'd gotten all the mileage I needed from it as per usual. She showers, hangs out with me a bit. I blow her back out on the living room couch. I know I'm effing gas hole, and she turns in for the night. The final was upon me at long last. The nuke I'd been arming since June was finally about to launch. In the middle of the night, I woke up and wrapped up one of the 3 remaining binders with the divorce papers taped to the inside cover and set it on my side of the bed with a note that said Merry Christmas on it. Next to it, I left my old phone and the business card of my lawyer. I packed up the remainder of my most needed items, enough to fill 2 backpacks, and I left my home that I spent 23 years in for the last time that my friends was 1 week ago. Sue, I am completely off the grid. Gone, shadow ghosted. She's blocked on FB, but still hasn't blocked me for some reason, so I'm keeping tabs on the fallout. It's absolutely glorious. My packages have reached everyone I sent them out to, and Sue is getting crucified. Her youngest sister completely dressed her down. Both of her parents have condemned her. My mom absolutely destroyed her like holy __ I know my mom has a mean streak, but the things she called Sue are UNF __ holy. She's been frantically trying to find out if anyone knows where I am, but those that do aren't saying a word. All over her FB feed, she's desperately trying to reach me because I'm guessing she knows I'm likely looking, but I'm not saying effing word to her without my lawyer present. That'll be the next time I share oxygen with her. She's got no way of spinning the narrative to paint me as the bad guy, because I've exposed her to everyone who matters to her, and from what a mutual friend who works in the same company as her, she and POS apparently are being put on administrative leave as of tomorrow. So yay, chances are she'll be going into 2021 unemployed. As for the final 2 binders, well, one has been turned over to my lawyer as my final bit of evidence for my impending divorce, and the last one I put in my storage unit to be burned in Joey's fire pit when the Divorce is final. Do I feel guilty about this? No, not even in the slightest. 23 years I did right by this woman. I gave her the home she wanted. I gave her the family she wanted. I gave her the life I felt we both deserved, and I loved her unconditionally. Never have I faltered. Never have I strayed. Never have I even entertained the notion of breaking my vows. When an issue came up that I felt was affecting our marriage, I came to her and told her, and we sorted it out as best we could. She opted to find comfort in another man's bed rather than come to me and say she was unhappy with her in Timeless EY life. At the time, she decided to step out with a young punk who gave her the tingles. So no, I have no sympathy for what I did, or for her. She can burn in hell for all I care. The most I stand to lose is my house, a car, and maybe a couple $100 a month in alimony. But seeing as the divorce is filed under the statute of adultery in NYS is at fault, that might get waived with the insurmountable amount of evidence I've provided. As far as I'm concerned, she's dead to me, and I'm never looking back. Quick edit: NYS is not fully at fault. Under certain circumstances, a divorce can be filed at fault, of which my lawyer has informed me my case falls under. I'll be meeting the soon-to-be ex-wife with her lawyer tomorrow. I'm guessing I'll just update here. Update: fooled my cheating soon-to-be ex-wife into thinking I was cheating then. Thermonuclear shinobi ghosted and served her Christmas Day. Christmas Day was the first full day I spent in my new apartment. It's still a work in progress, as I have more stuff I want to get, but overall, I've made it my home since I'm going to be here for 2 years at least. My boys and the eldest GF came over and spent a good portion of the day with me. The GF brought over treats she'd made and also whipped up a really nice meal. I got to sit and talk with my sons in a way I hadn't done in a really long time, and it was nice. My big sis also came over with more goodies and hung out with us. Also, it had been the first time she'd seen her nephews in nearly a year. Having all of them around did me some real good. As if I were by myself, I think I would have just drank myself into a stupor. Everyone cleared out around 8ish, and I decided I wanted to go hang out with Joey and his wife Claudia. Hung out with him for a couple hours, had a couple drinks, and then went back home. The next big development happened last week, December 29th, 2020, around midday. I get a text from Nina asking if I was busy that night. I, of course, wasn't, so we agreed to meet up after I got off of work. She shows up, and we go to a diner not far from where I work here in NYC. We're doing indoor dining at 25% capacity, thanks to the Rona, but there's mostly no trouble getting seats because so many of us opt not to dine out as much these days regardless. So after we're seated in order or food, Na pretty much lays all of her cards on the table, and honestly, I knew this was coming. She basically confessed that she's like me all the way back since we were teenagers, but never got the chance to tell me since Sue swooped in and scooped me up before she could. For context, I've known no longer than Sue by 2 years. As I mentioned, she's been the fourth point of my social square of myself, Oz, and Joey. We were the social outcasts in high school, the raver kids who didn't fit into all of the other cliques back then. Na had a weight problem and was diabetic. She was the heavyset goth chick who was super cool, but no guy would ever give a second glance at, but we always had chemistry. These days, Na is a personal trainer and yoga instructor. She was the ugly duckling who grew into one hell of a beautiful swan. If I must say, long story short, we decided that upon the finalization of my divorce, we are going to start seeing each other, and yay, I slept with her that night, took her back to my new pad, and we had a grand old time. Am I ashamed of sleeping with her? Hell no. Nina's been a better friend to me than Sue ever was. That's not saying Sue wasn't my best friend, but through the near quarter of a century I've known Na, she's always supported me, even so much as I learned that day, willingly taking a step back from her own feelings to allow me to pursue and eventually start a life with Sue. That resonated with me on a level I didn't think it would. That kind of selflessness towards another person is the definition of real love. I know it sounds like I'm just trying to justify in my head that sleeping with her was the right decision. To me it was, and I plan on exploring what's to come with Nina and I with total commitment. Okay, on to yesterday, the day I met my wife and her lawyer to discuss the divorce. It's now been 2 weeks since I ghosted my STBXW. This past Monday, I got a phone call from my stating that Sue's attorney has scheduled a meeting for us to discuss the terms of divorce on January 6th, 2021, which was yesterday. I met with him the Tuesday morning to discuss the terms I'm wanting. Long story short, uncontested divorce under the grounds of marital neglect from Sue. My terms are full division of assets and me selling my half of the house ownership to her. She can have it. We keep our respective vehicles. I keep my cabin in the Poconos. And under the pretenses of marital neglect, she gets no spousal support from me. As for 17, what I'll refer to my son, as from here on, he's free to choose who he wants to reside with following the divorce, which will most likely be me. So Wednesday comes and I show up to my Lawyer's office dressed in my Johnny. Cash best my wife and her lawyer she. Looks like __ barely holding it. Together, I give the stone face I won't. Bore you with the lawyer babble but her. Lawyer presented an offer for terms of reconciliation. I shot them down almost. As soon as she finished listing the details of the request, like I said, I'll spare you the details of the meeting. Long story short, we agreed to a legal separation leading to an uncontested divorce. The only revision is that I will pay her $653 a month of temporary spousal support to cover the cost of utilities until she's gainfully employed. Again, yep, she got fired for Fingos. He got canned as well up to a year after the finalization. I make enough that it won't hurt me financially even if she drags her feet finding a new job, and she's got enough in her savings to live off of for quite some time once a full calendar year has passed after the finalization date of the divorce has passed. She's on her own small price to pay for being rid of her cheating ass. It'll take roughly 3 months for things to go through, so early April, if there's no cock-ups, I'll be free of her. So after the meeting, my lawyer gives me some final words before telling he'll be in touch to update me on the progress of the filing. Back out on the street, Sue chases me down and asks, can we talk? I figured I'd give her at least that she held it together fairly well in the meeting, but outside let the waterworks flow, saying how sorry she was and how she never meant it to go as far as it did. She says she never expected to fall in love with PA, but knew when she thought I was cheating how wrong it was to betray her own husband in such a way. She asked, could I ever find it in my heart to forgive me, and that maybe in a few years could we try to start over, that she can't imagine what her life is going to be without me. I tell her to start imagining it soon, because this will be the last time I ever speak to or see her. I tell her that 17 is almost a man and old enough to make his own choices as to his own future. I say that I gave her half of my life and every ounce of love I had unconditionally, and she in her own words fell in love with another man, that there is absolutely no chance of me ever forgiving her, that all of the love I had for her was slowly killed all of those months that she confided and professed her love to pass, rather than coming to me and telling me she had any form of issue with how things were going with us. I told her I loved who she once was, but I hate who stands before me, and that if I never see her again, it'll be too soon. Here we are on the sidewalk in Midtown Manhattan, her making a scene, crying her eyes out. A couple folk walked by and give side glances, but at that point I didn't care. I wasn't about to publicly humiliate her. I pretty much already socially and professionally destroyed her, but I needed to get the last bit of emotion I had for her out. I finished my telling her I didn't regret the 23 years I spent being her husband. I regretted that in 23 years she decided the easy way out was the better option, and I have your lovely sons of __ on Reddit too thank for this last one, because it popped in my head just seconds before I said it. For 23 years, I thought she was mine, but it turned out it was just my turn. Put in my Rakins, turned around and walked the __ away. Later that night, father calls me and apologizes. He praises me for always being a good man to his daughter and tells me he's ashamed of her and that he raised her better than what she did not going to. I'm going to miss the old man. My dad died years ago, so he's always been my default father figure since, but I can't see myself maintaining a relationship